welcome to the third part of the Poverty and Time Use Surveys lecture. This lecture is part of the lecture series prepared for the course Gender Economics and for the University of University, Northern Cyprus campus. Well, in last time we have talked on the difficulty of the concept, especially because it is difficult to separate man and woman, their living conditions. And I have thought that actually this difficulty made the single mothers or the female households the kind of focus point. Actually, this difficulty might be also helpful to redefine the concept of poverty itself also. However, as I said, the initial difficulty that is created by this difficulty of separation of men and women who are usually living in the same families lead to overemphasis of the single mothers, or as I said, female-headed households. And usually, when it is looked upon, single mothers, who are the majority of the female-headed households, are well, you can see to some extent they are poorer than others, and we will look to the data. But before we look to the data, we should not consider two different things. First, we should note that maybe comparing single mothers with the average poverty rate, the poverty rate of single mothers with the average poverty rate, or poverty rate of overall male-headed households, basically, might not be that fair, or comparing their economic conditions also might not be that fair, because when people mention male-headed households, usually they are talking about on the families with two healthy adults, man and female. One of them might be staying at home, but staying at home will still means that he or she will contribute to the family, even if, as I said, only one of them is working in the market. So, in female-headed households, on the other hand, are usually the type of households with that is usually what is meant is households where there are only one functional healthy adult. Even if there is also a man in the household, usually that man could be sick, old, so the kind of headship of the family passes from the male to the female in that case. So maybe a more fairer comparison, that's my idea, maybe the more fairer comparison would be between the female-headed households, single mothers and single fathers. Where also, I mean, in case of single mothers, you have one lacking male member. In case of single fathers, you have female member lacking, and comparing their economic conditions might give better maybe results, or maybe single woman and single man. I mean, without children, we could also compare those two groups, so that we can make fair comparisons between the man and woman who are living alone. How are their economic conditions are changing. But anyway, well, in addition to that critique that could be maybe brought by myself, there is another critique brought by Chand. Actually, focusing too much on the single mothers gives the impression that, and you can infer, I mean, if especially when feminization of power concept is brought up, and mostly with the concept, the studied subjects are single mothers or the female-headed households. But it might give the impression that women in the male-headed households are just doing fine. And maybe, just maybe, that could mean that, I mean, some people might argue that might mean that for the female-headed households, or for the um, single mothers, the best thing might be marry and get a male head to their household. And well, whether the fact that they become single, or uh, they lost the male member is, well, willingly. I mean, in that case, I mean, the woman wanted to separate, or whether the separation is caused by male sometimes abandoning the house, sometimes divorcing, sometimes maybe even dying. I mean, uh, in that case, I mean, the, the male member, like willingly, but I mean, it is done. It's created. The single mother has to remain single by circumstances. Probably, it won't be fault of anybody in that case, or it won't be the result of the choices of, or willingness of any person in that case. But anyway, we might think in that case, basically, having a male head, a male member, male person who is responsible from that family, will solve the problems of that family. And that perspective, according to Chant, actually even gives the idea that women, especially the single mothers, especially the female-headed households, women in female-headed households, are kind of victims who are not able to overcome their economic difficulties. And those victims, if they are not able to overcome their their economic conditions, they are not able to get up. They are not people who are need to be given equal rights or equal stand, according to Chant. Rather, they are the people who need help, who need assistance, because that assistance of a male person is necessary to get them up in terms of economic conditions. Uh, and of course, this impression might become more strong even if we don't look to the economic conditions of the woman living in male-headed households, two-person households. Are those women just doing fine? Are they not poor? Are their living conditions not as bad as single mothers? That can be a fair question you might put. Okay. And before moving further, let's look to two different data. One of them is actually an interesting data. Let's look to Chant's article. Let me do it like this, so I can see the whole page. Yes, this is the first data. Here we see number of people below the poverty line. Well, we have already told that, well, we don't have women separately. Usually poverty line is defined for families, which means basically when this data is created, they are just counting first number of people in the number of women in the poor families relative to total number of women in the country, and then number of men in the poor families compared with the number of total men in the country, and then divide it and then compare it. Well, you might think that usually a family, typical family, has one male and one female adult member, maybe one female, one male child, or relatively equal number of male and female childs on average. Maybe not. Well, some families might have relatively more female members. Some families might have relatively more male members, both adult and children, and also old members. Um, and if the families with relatively more female members are more likely to be poor, in that case, more females will be below the poverty line. If relatively the families with more male members are more likely to be poor, then you will see more males as a percentage below the poverty line. So what is the result? Well, let's see the results. This is the Latin American countries. For example, Argentina, 23.8% of men are below the poverty line, 23.6% of females are below the poverty line. So for all 100 males, 99.3% of females are below the poverty line. So men are more poor than women, although the difference is small. If you look to the overall numbers, you see two countries, Paraguay, urban areas, where you see women are less likely to be poor than men, and Uruguay urban areas, basically. Usually when you switch to the, actually, let me look to that. Actually, even when you look to the urban and rural difference, usually the difference is, you cannot clearly predict whether rural areas women are more poor or whether in the urban areas women are not poor. The greatest difference is Dominican Republic, the rural area where 33.7% of men are poor, but 43.3% of the women are poor. And in general, you can see when you look to the data, you can see basically that women are tend to be poorer than men. Although the difference is in maybe most cases 1-2%, 1-2%. In some cases, actually, for how many countries? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, let's say 6, 7, and 8 countries. No, 9 places. The difference is about 2-3%. Which is still not that low actually. So there is a significant proof maybe the woman might be tend to be more poor and having more female members is more likely to make a family poor. Although still there are significant number of countries, this is not a complete general conclusion. I mean, there are still many countries where the difference is either very small or even in some areas the difference might be even negative. I mean, men might be more poor than women. Although, of course, when you look to any country, you have no country where both in the urban and rural area men are poorer than women. So this might be providing some evidence. Women are feeling the poverty kind of more severe than men. I mean, they might be more poor than men, let's say, in percentage, in numbers. More women are in poverty as a percentage compared with men. In general, you might say that. What about single mothers? So this is the data for the single mothers. This is total households headed by women, and these are the female-headed households by poverty status in urban areas. So, well, on this table you can see actually, what is the percentage of overall female-headed households in the urban areas of the countries and basically the trend of it, as well as the female-headed households among the extremely poor, and the non-poor people. As you see throughout the years, for example, in Argentina, female-headed people who are poor or extreme poor has been risen. In Bolivia, more than the overall increase in the female-headed households. But in Bolivia, it has also risen, although it has fallen and risen for the extremely poor, and it has fallen for the poor. And when you look to overall graph, you see generally an increase, sometimes a significant increase, actually, in the overall graph. Actually, let's look to the graph in the next part in more detail, since we are getting close to the 15-minute mark. And then also draw some conclusions from it. See you in the next part.